But what the Prime Minister said was that MAGA and MIGA together, you put the two of them together, you get a mega partnership between two giants, in India and US. When you talk about the one thing that possibly will be the driving force of this partnership, could it be the defense ties that the two have decided to forge? Because the president said that there are going to be greater sales in terms of defense equipment to India.
Yes, and India has so far bought major defense equipment from Russia. But what Mr. Trump liked to see is that more of U.S. technology, more of U.S. Military equipment be bought from the United States. And that is something is a good start. Today, there is a lot of agreement about energy, a lot of agreement about fighter jets, agreement about military technology, and all to be done on a level playing field, a fair playing field. That is what these two nations appear to be focused on, and they both repeatedly praised each other. You could clearly see the chemistry between them and the friendship between them, and to some extent, they are very similar kind of leaders. They are very good negotiators. They are really good, focused on business, and that's what we saw it today.
Sir, I request you to stay on with us. Let me also bring in my colleagues Geeta Mohan and Rohit Sharma, both of them joining us live from outside the White House. In fact, at the moment, I've got Rohit with me, who happens to be inside, where the joint presser took place. Rohit, in terms of what the big takeaways have been for the plenty of experts you must be surrounded by right now, what's getting the attention the most at the moment?
I think first things first, the extradition of a terrorist, a big deal, a very big deal. It was stuck in courts, and there were, very movements far in between. But President Trump agreeing to do it and said, he's done it. I think it's a very big deal. The fact that both sides have agreed to resolve, the trade issues before the end of the year, that's a big deal. India agreeing to buy natural energy from the United States allows President Trump to drive home the message that people are buying stuff and creating jobs in the United States. The fact that both leaders, talked about cooperating in AI, and semiconductors and taking the relationship forward, and without, any malice. It wasn't about, you owe me this or you owe me that. We've seen President Trump, calling out leaders in front of the media, but this was so different. He talked about his leadership. President Trump talked about Prime Minister Modi's, negotiating skills, and saying he's a tough guy to negotiate with. And before they left the press conference, they talked about how this is a great relationship. They're in a very happy space. This is something that they both want to work together, and we could see the bromance on display. So a lot of interesting things that were talked about during the presser. And then, our colleague Geeta Mohan asked a very important question that has been bothering India for such a long time. It was about those extremist Khalistani elements who've been doing things here on American soil. We've seen, how there were arsonists trying to take down a consulate in San Francisco. We've seen a reporter that was actually manhandled by Khalistani extremists not too long ago. It was all in the past 2 or 3 years. And that when she asked that question, President Trump said, we will do whatever it takes to make sure that that does not happen. So very clear message coming right from the White House, from President Trump, that India is central, to the U.S. foreign policy. They talked about Russia, ending the war in Russia. Prime Minister Modi saying that, we want peace. And that's what President Trump has been trying to do now. So I think a lot of synergy, a lot of resonance, a lot of cooperation. And I think that is what was expected out of this meeting. And that's what we got to see. The relationship is really strong. It has multiple layers into it. But overall, it is in a very strong place. And it will go only strength to strength from here. Harshit.
Absolutely. At multiple points, as we heard that press conference as well, at multiple points, the two leaders could be seen sharing the same ideology, be it the situation in the Middle East, be it the situation between Russia and Ukraine, be it the issue of illegal immigrants as well. There was a shared vision that you saw from the two tall leaders as they went into this dialogue that many believed could have soured things because of the announcement that was made prior to the meeting, that by Donald Trump, of announcing reciprocal taxation policy or reciprocal tariffs for India. But while that may have been one of the stumbling blocks, but the two still managed to forge constructive conversation, have a constructive dialogue, and put together certain pieces which should, in the grander scheme of things, take the relationship forward, as was duly echoed from those statements, as well as was said by Donald Trump, that the relationship has never been as tight and as strong as it's been since the time he's taken over and since the time he's gotten to work with Prime Minister Modi. We're showing you some of the visuals from that interaction, the multiple points at which the two leaders met each other, embraced each other. There has always been signature sort of a thing about the two of them coming together, which is the way that they greet each other. Always very passionate, always very warm, always very friendly. It was just another episode of that. Coming back to Rohit. Rohit, in terms of the tariffs, Donald Trump may have had things go his way, but maybe he's left the door ajar as well for India, because he says that if India are willing to tweak their policy, the US will also think alike.
Absolutely. I think it was one of those questions that everybody wanted to know the answer to. And I think they've done that. We talked about how allies and partners would get an exception. They've said that they will want to come up with a trade agreement pretty soon. That was something that was left in 2020. And it's something like they're picking up, whatever was left in 2020 and trying to get to a trade agreement, which essentially is very important for President Trump, because he's talked about using tariffs to, bulk up the treasury to make sure that, people and companies do not start making jobs, creating jobs in the US. For example, he talked about, car manufacturers, if they don't want tariffs, you come to America, start building cars, there's going to be no tariffs. So I think, there are some, disagreements on how tariffs would work. And India obviously does not want that amount of tariff. But at the same time, they're able to, and they will be able to work a trade agreement out. And that's a big talking point. It was a kind of a sticking point early in the day. But I think, when they both spoke and they explained their point of views, and now we know from our sources that they want to be able to draft up a plan before the end of this year. Possibly, we could see there's going to be a Quad summit sometime later part of this year. Maybe around that time, we'll be able to see something that would come up. But it allows India to work with President Trump, and that's been his style. He likes to negotiate like that. He likes to take extreme positions, and he brings you to the table to negotiate. So I think he's done that. I think Indian side understands that, and they're willing to make concessions. We've already made some concessions as far as tariffs goes for some luxury items and Harley Davidson, which President Trump has been talking over and over again for the past 2 years. So we'll probably see some of those tweaks along, and the expectation is that the both sides will agree to a trade deal before the end of this year. Harshit.
And that's going to be the interesting part as we move forward and explore what lies ahead in terms of the relationship between the two countries. Could you also tell us what the lineup of events now looks like for Prime Minister Modi? Of course, the big meeting has already happened. That was the most pivotal part of his day. But what lies ahead for him before he flies back home?
Well, he's just going to head into a dinner with President Trump. It's closed press, so we would not have access to that. We'll probably see pictures come out from the PMO and also from the White House. So it's going to be a closed dinner where President Trump is going to host Prime Minister Modi, and then he would actually go to Andrew Air Force Base and port his Air India One to India. That's his plan for now. There are no more meetings lined up that we've been told, and there's going to be a press conference by the Indian delegation now at Hotel Willard, so where we could probably go and ask some more questions. But in all, I think this was the last engagement. The last engagement would be the dinner, and then Prime Minister Modi heads back to India.